Hey everybody, Edo here, and I am excited because I have Nigel Matthews on the line. Say hello, Nigel.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hopefully they're all well. But Nigel is the managing director of GamesQuest, and GamesQuest, along with online selling, has been a major Europe-based, UK-based, but European and worldwide fulfillment agency, company, group, whatever you call it, fulfiller. And you guys...
Logistics partner, Ed. We're logistics partner. Logistics partner. And
you and I have been working together for some time. Started out with GemPacked cards and the Siblings Trouble. And you've fulfilled everything, including, most recently, Legendary Creatures and Sunset Over Water, which is now wrapping up as well. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to chat, learn about sort of what your origin story is, how GamesQuest came to be, and just talk about how things have been developing and changing. I mean, it's been crazy with Kickstarter, so I think it's a super interesting topic, and everyone always wants to know about fulfillment and logistics. So to kick it off, tell us about the origin of GamesQuest.
GamesQuest started as a hobby. To be perfectly honest with you, I think we're all hobbyists at heart, and that's kind of where I started. And it was me and my wife actually. So we started going to here in the UK. I don't know whether you have them in the US, but we have what we call car boot sales. Have you heard car boot sales, where people all roll up in a field in their cars and start selling their goods that they no longer want?
We call those flea markets.
You have.
You call them flea markets. Flea markets.
Free market. Okay, so all started there as a hobby. There was a great author actually called Philip Jones Farmer. I don't know if you remember him, but he had a series called the Riverboat Saga, and I remember my brother telling me that he'd sold a book of his on eBay. This was back 12, 15 years ago. So I thought, I'd give it a go, and I put these books on. There was a set of them for $5. I thought I'll whack them on eBay for 99p. As you do.
Sorry about my coughs.
Oh my God, they sold like you all right there? My story's obviously,
I feel bad. I did the introduction and my throat.
I'm an effect on your head. You're choking on it.
So you've got a 5-book bundle that you wanted to whack online, which I have no idea what that means, but I assume he means sell. And then what happened? Go on with your story.
Well, they went for £40. They went for £40, which I was amazed at, and I thought, oh, hello, and it became a hobby. So me and my wife, we kind of we then started going to car boot sales and buying secondhand books, games. We started selling games. I remember one of the early games that we sold was Escape to Colditz, the old classic. And
I've not played the new version of that. Go on.
Yeah. Because they brought out the anniversary edition, didn't they? And I bought it for like a £5. And then sold it for like £50, on eBay, and so it became an addictive hobby to kind of do that. And then that hobby turned into, as we had kids, turned into a business where my wife could run from home, and then that kind of developed. We were just selling on eBay, and then a friend of ours, after kids, were then starting to look at full-time work. So we said, well, why don't we start selling new games? So make it proper rather than just secondhand products. And it went from there. So we started buying and selling on new games, and then we started. We just realised that whilst the board games was our passion, you couldn't make enough money from it. So we then started to sell collectibles alongside those, and then we went into a bit more other things as well. But at the heart was always the board games and role playing, which is obviously my passion and what I did. So
and so at some point, you didn't give any years there, but at some point you get this connection with Steve Finn, right? I believe Steve was your first customer, right? In terms of fulfillment, logistics.
He was. It was one of my customers, a guy called Julian, who was buying, and I think him and Steve were chatting, and Steve obviously said, "Look, do you know anybody that could, ship my stuff in the UK?" And he said, "Well, email Nigel." And so I got an email out of the blue and went, "Well, it made sense, we were shipping products and games all around the world anyway, so why don't we ship them for other people, in terms of fulfillment? So we took on Steve, and that we did well with that, a small campaign, and then we did another one, and then he recommended you, Ed, and along came you. You were my second child. You were my second child. So then you came along, and we did a good job from you, and we suddenly realised that actually the strength behind doing fulfillment was very much repeat business, because then you said, oh, I'll come back on my next one and the next one. So we started then reaching out to other people on Kickstarter, offering our logistics services, and what we kind of quickly found was that there was, particularly in Europe, there wasn't really a very specialist company that knew how to package and ship board games on a daily basis, and we also saw that the fact that the community liked working with people who like board games,
For sure.
So we very much became, but then with a bit of a stroke of luck, if I'm honest, we partnered with, or we offered a partnership to Isdevium, who are now obviously Asmodee UK, right. And they were looking, and at the time it was perfect. They were looking for a potential partner where they don't do B2C, so which is obviously where our strength is. We don't do B2B, and I have. When I say B2B, it's business to business, so rather than business to consumer. Right. So. And we didn't want to get into distribution or from that side of things as well. So, and they were looking for, a lot of their publishers are saying, please help us with our Kickstarter fulfillment. We need fulfillment. We need logistics support. And so they, and they obviously wanted a conduit where we could potentially, guide new and exciting publishers to them as well. So,
right.
So
and, that was and just to interject for a second, really, you breezed past it, but that repeat business, sort of word of mouth, right? When Steve recommended you guys to me, I was looking for a solution. He's a strong reference, and then moving on, I recommended you guys online, but also to Minion Games. I know James started working with you guys, and he has a big following. So there's a lot of build and growth that comes from that sort of relationship building, especially
huge
in this Kickstarter world where it's really very advice networking driven as far as knowing who to work with in all these different countries, because suddenly you might live in Wisconsin but have to deal with how do I ship things all across the United States and across the world, and that's not every day for everybody. So, and I do remember you having that partnership, and when it came in online with Estevian, how do you ever pronounce that?
Isdevium.
And that that you sort of jumped into the scene with a lot of legitimacy, because there were other groups doing it, usually game stores and other sort of UK-based businesses that were handling that fulfillment. We see that in Canada and other places where the game store says, we'll let you send us all your stuff, and they don't necessarily have gigantic warehouses. Some of them do, but anyway, so you have that partnership. And so this is probably, we're in 2018, so this is probably, what, 2015, 2016, 2014, 2015, something like that?
It was about, it was 2.5, 3 years ago that it kind of kicked off. I think for us, the two factors was word of mouth. I mean, you're right about James Matthews with Minion Games, and he was, James was very, very, had his fingers burned. He tried a couple of non-specialist fulfillment companies in the UK and got his fingers burned. So we kind of, I think the legitimacy of your recommendation and then Isdevium's name got him to trust us, and I think James is now on his 8th project with us. And everybody knows James is hard to please. He'll let you know when you're not doing it right. Absolutely, very straight talking. And but I think, and also then the turning block was Jamie Stegmeyer's blog.
Sure,
and he tested a lot of companies out, and we do listen to our customers, and he had very specific requirements, and we ticked every single one of his boxes when he tested our fulfillment services out, and because of that he rated us #1 in Europe, and I think that was the final kind of tick in the box for us. So
so at that point though, so once you have you've worked with a wealth of creators, you have recommendations from people, you're appearing in these video and blog sites. I mean, presumably business started booming, right? I mean, can you talk about how, like, from a scale of partners or creators or volume of games, like over 2015, 2016, 2017, how much did that grow, that business grow?
It's quite a lot. I can give you the exact figures quite happily. It's really hard because the thing is, you win a customer and then you don't hear from them for maybe 6 to 12 months. You just don't hear a thing while it's in manufacture. It goes into limbo, and we've had so many. And everybody goes, oh, you should be project managing and you should have a schedule. It's so difficult to do when these independent publishers and the scale of ownership. I struggle for the right word, but the strain of actually project managing the projects themselves varies from people like yourself who will know exactly where the product is, exactly where it's at, and have all their ducks lined up and we've had this many times was yes, my product's at port. Yeah, okay, well, what port? China? No, Southampton. And they go, sorry, who are you? And literally, I spoke to you 6 months ago. Can you help me get my stuff out of customs? And wow, it's just showed up, And
I actually, just to speak to that for a second, that it's a huge. I think a lot of people take it for granted or don't quite understand how fundamentally, and I want to say this in the right way. Unprofessional, the majority of Kickstarter creators are, and it's not that I mean unprofessional in a sloppy way. It's just that I literally mean hobbyist who's not a professional, right? They went on to Kickstarter to do this is the first time, so they're learning everything on their go, and they don't necessarily have a background in logistics or fulfillment or port to port or project management, and so it's not a dig. It's just that I've certainly seen it where it's like people make the announcement when it's at your port and stuff like that, and I fall into the same category a little bit in terms of. Between projects, even when I reach out to you and say, hey, I've got something probably March-ish, February, March, I don't know. I still probably go dark for a pretty long time. It's not like I'm giving you a constant heartbeat, but I've heard lots of stories from fulfillment agencies and just distributors and partners who talk about just, people arrive and they don't have all the custom forms. It just comes in on a boat and it's not they don't carry everyone through the process. And again, I don't mean it it's just that their Kickstarter enables people who don't do this professionally to do it, right?
Oh, hugely, hugely, and we're hobbyists ourselves. We will help absolutely anybody out. But it's very difficult. When we first started, we took on Andy, this guy called Andrew Carter, who's now my fulfillment director. He's a hobbyist, he's a customer of mine, and I needed support. I needed people to come and join me. And literally, he had no sales background, but he's such a hobbyist and cares about people and what he does that I took him on board. And of course, the first 6 months you're reaching out to people and working with their projects. And of course, it then the projects then would start to trickle in. So I think in 2016, after we kind of really properly launched at the beginning of 2016, we did very few parcels apart from our e-commerce business, and we moved into a new warehouse. And I thought, this is going to last me quite a few years. And I think by the end of it, it started to pick up. And we did about 30,000 parcels at the end of 2016.
So 30,000 parcels,
30,000 parcels just on the fulfillment side.
And because UK shipment, let's say 500. That's probably, 20 to 25 customers, Kickstarters? Or
about that. Yeah, about that. It varies.
It varies. For sure.
But then we won Cool Mini or Not, which was through a recommendation through the Estevium. And Cool Mini were going to test us out towards the end of that year with a small project just for the UK. But then they obviously decided to use us for the UK and for the EU, and they tested about three other companies around worldwide, and we came out tops, in terms of how well we worked and how well our customer service worked for them. And so by this stage, the following year, which is 2017, which is last year, we did about 140,000 parcels.
And I would imagine that Cool Mini or Not's like half of that, right?
Huge growth. It's very difficult because a lot of people say, "Oh, you overstretch yourself." It's not that we haven't overstretched ourselves. Going back to my earlier point, is that it's incredibly hard to schedule stuff that you don't know is definitely going to arrive or not, because it just shows up, or we get notification a couple of weeks in advance. Now, do you turn away this business? You go, no, sorry, ain't doing it. Find yourself another fulfillment company, And I think one of our problems is that I think we because we are hobbyists, we genuinely care about the publishers and care about the customers. So I think as a company, we probably find it too hard to say no. If
Sure.
I'm honest, we don't like saying no. And we still haven't said no to anybody. I think we're just learning to go, yeah, okay, we can do this, but it's not going to be in the time frame you think it's going to be. So
let's get to that. I mean, I think, again, just as a reminder, I mean, sometimes we talked about where the Kickstarter creators are, but a lot of times it's the manufacturer that gets slowed down or has issues or has to redo something, right? So there's all these breakage points and delay points that you missed before Chinese New Year. Now you're on the other side, or there's a shipping issue. The analogy I like to give often is like, whether you think of it, this tube or this python, and there's this explosion via Kickstarter for creators to create all this volume, and then as the volume pushes through the system, it's just bursting the belts along the way. Right? Not that a python wears belts, but it's sort of, it impacts manufacturers, and suddenly they have delays, and then those delays, and everything cycles down
hugely.
But that sort of brings us to the next topic, which is, because from my experience, up until this year, up until like 2 months ago, you guys I've never even had one issue whatsoever with you guys, or even heard any problems, right? Like everyone's just always been grand. And then coming into the end of this year, maybe beginning of next year, there was just, whether this Kickstarter, that one, delay here, delay there. And so, I mean, was it just the volume? Like, where in this growth did it hit you guys that suddenly you were on your back foot and struggling for what? I don't want to, we don't need to talk about any specific campaign, but, what was sort of going on?
We kind of, the problem is the sheer volume of customers. It wasn't so much the projects themselves. It was very much the after sales in terms of the follow up. People say, "Oh, can you now ship this for me? And can you ship this for me?" And so that run rate business, in effect, has become a major problem. I remember we foresaw it in the middle of last year. We went, if this keeps on growing the way that we're growing, we cannot. I'm going to have like 10 account managers just processing people's individual run rate orders that they're emailing over to us. So it becomes unsustainable. And so we kind of sat down and went, well, we need some software. We need a portal where people can upload their own orders, because we use, not so much a legacy system, but we had basically used our e-commerce tool, which allows us to manage our inventory, etc. And I managed to our orders, but it wasn't really fit for purpose, because it's very much an automatic system that will pull in orders from Amazon and eBay and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, really, it's not really fit for purpose. So we kind of then we invested into a developer who is brilliant in a program which we call ShipQuest, which we've just launched.
Hold on. So ShipQuest is homegrown. You guys developed that on your own?
Yeah, we did that on our site.
Bravo, guys! I mean, I've used a lot of dashboards and a lot of software. My first experience with this was for Legendary Creatures and Sunset Over Water, but that's very nice software.
It's more than, I think one of my best days of my life last year was when I was speaking to Chris, who's the developer, and I said, God, Chris, we're looking at maybe integrating our inventory system into the couriers, because we knew the ShipQuest would integrate. So I feel like, and he said, well, fine, ShipQuest could do that. And I went, really? They went, yeah, and OneMail, and anybody you want to, it can just integrate with, and because that's where his specialty was. So we would hope to have launched ShipQuest at the beginning of the end of the year, but it was launched officially in March, because of the integration. It gave us a lot more, and therefore now we've got a tool where where people can upload their own orders, so therefore they're not waiting for several days for an account manager to get back to them to say, I've now uploaded this order for you. They can do it. It will be able to integrate direct into people's websites. They can see their inventory live. So, unwhere before, where there was, and you probably experienced this, you had no transparency of where your orders were being shipped or the status of your orders, or you'd have to ask for tracking information. You just had to rely on us. Whereas now, as you discovered yourself, you can log into ShipQuest and you can literally see, all your orders, what status they're in, whether they've been picked, dispatched, everything. So
yeah, I again, just to complement it, I have better insight to my inventory with you than my inventory with anyone else who has my stuff. I mean, the ability to see every SKU, what's in there, where it is, if it's being allocated, all the different status of the orders. A bunch of people have been asking me questions because there were some bumps, but a bunch of people have been asking me questions, and I can go look their name up, just search for their information, and it pops up very quickly. It's responsive. Make sure it stays responsive as more people are using it. But
totally.
But no, it's very well done.
Yeah, we're now as a project management team. This weekend we had the bank holiday, and we were running about 9 days behind in about 300 emails, and now we're down because of ShipQuest now, and now actually we're dealing with proper account management and proper service. I think we're now down to 71 emails, and we're on top of things. But more importantly, gives us transparency. But going back to your earlier question, is that the wonderful thing about the board game community is it's and this is where independent publishers can make it big very quickly, because if the community gets behind a game, as we've all seen, and behind a publisher, that publisher can grow incredibly quickly. I'd give you some figures that we did 140,000 parcels last year. In the first quarter of this year, we've done 70,000.
Wow!
So 70,000 parcels. Now, admittedly. And it's well documented that obviously we had three CMON projects arrive at once, which was Rising Sun, Smog, and Zombicide Green Horde. Now, so that first month we shipped up. We talked about 28,000 parcels in the first year. The first month of January, we did just over 40,000 parcels. Okay, and the problem with that is that with logistics, you cannot, because we don't sell the product, to elicit positive feedback. Because when people receive a parcel in the post and it's from a third-party fulfillment company, they go, yeah, bravo, well done. Yeah, you've done your job. Thanks, Nigel. But if it hasn't gone right, and it's normally a very small percentage that hasn't gone right, then it can become very toxic very quickly. Because that's the dark side, if you like, of the board game community. And it's a very small minority that kind of do that. And I said to one customer who was saying, well, I've heard a bit about press and showing. I said, if I could elicit the positive response from the 39,000 odd other customers that received their parcel without an issue, well, yeah, the very small proportion that did, and rightly so, by the way. I'm not defending that there was, that we're angels, because our problem with logistics, and people forget about this, is that once we've done our job and we've handed it over to the carrier, then we are out of control. I have no more control over that parcel other than the hope that I've chosen the right carrier to do the right job for me. And that's not always, that's not always the best thing, and we know for a fact that, it's now going to be public knowledge soon, but, we are looking at some of our European carriers in terms of where they've let us down in some of these major projects. But that's my job, to make sure that going forward, we've got the right people in the right places in terms of our carriers. So, and carriers change. I don't know if you've ever heard the story here in the UK where KFC appointed DHL. Now, we use DHL. They appointed DHL as their new carrier. Okay, they got rid of UPS, and I think it was UPS anyway, but they appointed DHL as their new carrier. And DHL is one of the biggest, carriers here in the UK. Well, it was massive uproar because suddenly DHL systems were going down, couldn't cope with all this influx, or there was a problem, and suddenly there was a massive shortage of chickens, chicken being delivered to the KFCs in the country. There was an absolute uproar, so. They can't even get it right. You know,
Yeah.
the KFC.
No,
Have given
no,
their business.
it's hard. It's hard for sure. It's hard for sure. And sometimes, it's not even. Sometimes you get all sorts of little things that happen. I remember just weird examples. I was using agility, one of these stories, and actually, I had recommended Jamie Stegmeyer to them, and he had used them for sample test on viticulture. And for some reason, when they shipped my package out, rather than saying, what was this at the time, liftoff, it said sample of viticulture. And which normally wouldn't be a big deal, but if it's Australia or New Zealand, they read the word viticulture and they assume that you are sending plants and not a board game. And so all of my packages got stopped and opened and inspected. And different countries do it in different ways. I think it was Australia will like ask you for what's going on and get some documentation. New Zealand's like, no, we are going to open it, and then you're just going to have to pay us for the time no matter what we find.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And like, or even in this last one, little things happen, right? I have a little promo pack for Sunset Over Water. And the promo pack, we included a little ad card for Herbaceous because people like Sunset Over Water should like Herbaceous. And that was supposed to be in the back of it, like inside it. But whatever, however the file got laid out, when the manufacturing sent it, the little ad was at the front. So the front says Herbaceous, but it's for Sunset Over Water. And now, they were sent over with all the correct SKU information, but it's still easy, despite that information, to see a word and a name and a logo and say, oh, okay, well, this should go over here. So I know we went through, and it was all resolved, but sort of this confusion over, was this with Herbaceous or was it with Sunset? So it's not always, you have all the usual problems, but you get all the weird problems too, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so you've went through this growth. You're still growing. Who knows, but you're looking to another 200% growth. I guess that would be 100% growth. Sorry.
Yeah.
100% growth. Are you feeling like things are under control? Or are there things that you're still working on? Where are you guys now?
Well, I think we've learned an extraordinary amount. I think what people think that we're some sort of faceless organization, and there are lots of very large fulfillment companies out there, but it really hurts us because obviously we're part of the community. We're all board gamers. All my staff are board gamers. We're part of the community, so it really does hurt when we see some negative press out there. But I think going back is that we are learning. Our learning curve in any sort of business, hindsight's wonderful, is growing, and ShipQuest is definitely helping enormously. We're just and my landlord is probably should win Landlord of the Year award. He's just amazing, and he's actually gone and bought some premises next door to us, and because there's a car company there at the minute, he's gone, I want to help Nigel, so I'm going to buy these 2 warehouses. You can move out.
Jeez,
move in it. And that's a genuine story. It's just like, Jake, I love you if you listen to this. But he's just like, he's just one of these enablers. So he's gone and bought these 2 warehouses for us. And, so the next 3 months we'll have another, 12 to 15,000 square feet of warehousing space, which is obviously allow us to grow and have that set up. We've got a great infrastructure and great team. We've got a great customer. I've expanded my customer services team. That's now up to about 6 people. And so, we have learned a great deal. I think one of the things that we did learn, because we had another warehouse up in our Heathrow depot that was handling the Simon parcels, and what we learned from that, for example, is that a lot of our existing customers' run rate business got locked down because it was such a massive amount of product coming through the warehouse at such a time that actually we went, whoa. If that happens again, we need to move product out of there into an accessible area, and that's just sheer learning curve, And hands up, we did.
How do we get past these boxes? When I fulfilled out of my house, there were just parts of the house you couldn't get to anymore.
Totally. Absolutely, yeah. So I think we've learned it. I think we have, genuinely left a couple of 2 or 3 of our normal customers down a little bit over that period of time. But we've also moved heaven and earth to try and put things right. But as I say, a majority of our projects have gone smoothly. So, but yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's certainly a challenge. Again, coming out, coming into this fulfillment, which has been happening over the last, whatever month, I had a number of concerns given what I had been hearing and experiencing, and I did definitely see some of that. You guys giving longer estimates and setting, less aggressive estimates and things like that and expectations. But, by and large, when I look at the fulfillment, and I had a different fulfillment, I should say, my U.S. fulfillment was a different organization because we've had some bumps there. But as far as my European worldwide fulfillment, that's been moving along smoothly. There was a couple bumps along the way.
There always is. Always.
On some emails and some tracking things and that kind of thing. But people are getting all their packages. I can look up and answer questions. And I think having the back access so that I don't feel like I have to do I'm emailing this group in the UK and waiting for them to be awake and then waiting for them to respond to me when they've got all this other stuff. And I can just find simple answers to simple questions. Definitely smooths it out a lot. So I certainly appreciate it, and I can understand what it's like to be dealing with this volume. I mean, hopefully the number of issues are going down, and you're working with any partner who've struggled with you guys, and you resolve it, right?
Yeah. We continue to strive. I think the message is we are professionals. We are board gamers. I play board games every Sunday, every Tuesday. My staff play board games every weekend. We are genuine people striving to do a good job, and it does hurt when we get negative feedback. But we're looking at. I think we're looking at to try and elicit the positive feedback out there. I mean, I was speaking to one of my publishers who's at a big show with us this weekend actually, and he was telling me 2,500 escaped the dark. Kind of a big 2,500 parcels, and even I was shocked when he turned around. He said, "Do you know what, Nigel? Do you know how many damages I got out of those 2,500 parcels?" And what? He said, one. And I just wish, that I could get each of his 2,500 backers to give me a positive feedback, which we're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on.
Well, you should, what I would suggest, and I certainly haven't done it, and I certainly should. Is there have been, again, more on the Europe worldwide side, but a number of people that said, "Hey, I got everything in the package. It looked great," or something like that. Whatever if it's hashtag GameQuest or at GameQuest or whatever your social media, just starting to show pictures of nice packaging.
We're working on that. We're going to change our Facebook a little bit, and we're going to integrate. If you look on our website, then we have what we use is a feedback system called FIFO, and we are a trusted merchant of FIFO, which is really hard to get. So it's like we have like 99% feedback, positive feedback on our website, and I think it's something that with publisher's permission, when we ship out email confirmation. We're going to try and elicit that on our new ShipQuest portal when we get it. That leave us positive feedback if your package has arrived clean and safe and good. So it would be quite interesting to see if we can elicit the positiveness that people receive from our service. I think people will probably see us in a far better light than some of the odd toxic story that goes around. So,
yeah. And I mean, there's only so much attention in the world for so long, right? So if the track record goes back to good and everyone's, I think it'll be a bump in the road. Well, it has been awesome chatting. You and I haven't chatted all that much, considering how long we've been in business together. So I appreciate the time, and
it's been a pleasure. Oh yeah, and thank you for your business.
Well, certainly let the team know I appreciate all the hard work. I know I'm not your biggest customer, but I appreciate it. And thanks everyone for watching.
Thanks, Ed. All the best.
Bye. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist. League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks.